failing is not a bad thing in product development. It's something that's necessary.
It's failing at the right time.
That's correct. Starting off and designing something, it's important to have, sounds weird to say, but it's important to have boundaries or scope set first off, so that you have a frame to work within. Trying to generate ideas without a scope will leave you frustrated. It will leave you with a lack of ideas, honestly, because you will sit and try to think and come up with new stuff without having a set off. So the first thing I would do designing a loudspeaker, I would try to define a frame, and then I would go to my nearest acoustic guy and that's simplified a bit, but asking for a brief. Usually our product management would deliver that, and that would have been developed in cooperation with acoustics. Doing high-end loudspeakers, of course, the acoustics are one of the important parts, and I would look into where to pull inspiration from, where does this product need to fit, within which context does it need to fit. So I would look into the trends in Scandinavian furniture and interior design as a get-go.
Where I start developing loudspeakers is, what does the market need? That's a very different start point than what does the market want. You get a much better product when you look at what is needed by the customer. That then starts the framework, the baseline of the development. So in our research and development department, we have a research team. So we're constantly innovating, how do we make our loudspeakers better? And we have technologies in the research phase that we can then pull into the development phase. I know this bit will improve our tweeter response, so let's pull that in. And that has some constraints. How do we use it? How do we put it with other drive units in different cabinets and things like that? If we look at the other end, we want to make something that looks cool and convenient and stylish, then we go, okay, it's a bit more, how does the product need to fit in an industrial design sense into somebody's home? And then it's like, how do we maximize the performance given those industrial design constraints? And then it becomes fitting the technology and the acoustics into that framework, whereas a high-end loudspeaker would be slightly the other way around, where we have all these acoustic technologies. How do we then make the industrial design work?
The next step would be the design brief that we get from our product management department, where we have defined which target audience is a product for and which context does it fit within. What shape language could be developed to fit it into this context? Is there some feature that we need to accommodate? Is this, for example, like a music series? Is it a battery-driven speaker that needs to be moved? Okay, we need to handle that scenario. It's a list of open-ended issues that need to be solved from one into another, and then you can be creative within those smaller tasks, basically. And then build some of these as simple cardboard mock-ups or foam models, and then go test these. Sometimes you can use your colleagues as test persons, and other times you will need some from within the user panel. It's important to involve each other early on in the process, because if, let's say, I do work on a concept based on the brief that is using a driver configuration or something that is either wrong or has some unforeseen limit that I don't know of because it's not my background, it's important that I get one of the acoustic guys on early on to catch this and steer clear of that.
Also, all the mechanical constraints, working with our mechanical engineers, what's feasible and what's not feasible. And practically, we spend a lot more time together at the very beginning. Even if it's just a 5-minute quick chat, oh, what's this, oh, about that, blah, blah. We actually spend more constructive time before the project really begins. And once we go through gate 3, the whole scope of the project is locked and we have to deliver a product. And that becomes very, very, very resource heavy. And all those small interactions that we have industrial design, acoustics, electronics, mechanics. We don't sit down and have meetings, we just have these quick interactions. Give us that better specification before we start the real development of the product. Once we've gone through gate 3 and move into the development, we tend to spend less and less time with each other, actually, because your role is defined, the product is defined. You know, we need to deliver this shape, and we need to deliver this acoustic performance, and we need to have these electronics. So you kind of go away into your separate teams and work. You still come together and make sure it, make sure it all works, but there's less of that creative interaction. It's really, really important to make sure that we have that absolutely early on. So looking to the future, it's always trying to strike that balance between where we've come from and where are we going. Not just looking at new technologies and new directions, we're also continually re-evaluating the things that we've done in the past. The big problem we have with sustainability is that to get the best performance, you end up using new materials and new technologies, and generally they're inherently hard to make sustainable. When we, for example, glue our drive units together, we want them to stay together and not fall apart. Converse to that, we really, really build them to last. We don't want these drive units to fail. So you will never need to throw it away. And then at that point you go, well, what does recyclability mean when you never actually throw the thing away because it lasts a lifetime? For me, form follows function, especially in our high-end products. But then the nice thing is that, Marcus and his team are developing a design language that includes shapes that we would like from an acoustics point of view, but also is elegant and you want to have in your living room.